at the appropriate time. Only those who raise their hand right before we speak about the COA that you would like to talk about will be granted permission to provide testimony before the commission. Could we please say the Pledge of Allegiance? We can have a moment of silence, please. Okay, before we start tonight's meeting, I would like to welcome Matthew Haley. Matthew's a new commission member, and we appreciate him giving his time to do all this. So thank you, Matthew, for joining us. The purpose of the Historic Resource Commission is to safeguard important elements of Graham's cultural history and architectural history, to preserve those districts and landmarks for the education, pleasure, and enrichment of residents and visitors. May I have the approval of the minutes for January 5, 2021?
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will proceed to reviewing the certificate of appropriateness applications on the agenda tonight. The HRC is responsible for evaluating whether a COA request meets the criteria in the HRC design guidelines. It is important to note HRC decisions on COA are considered quasi-judicial and as such must follow specific procedural rules. In order to protect individuals' due process rights, the Commission agrees to be impartial decision makers, provide proper public notice, and consider only competent and material evidence based on facts, not conjecture or hearsay testimony. Tonight's meeting will follow Robert's Rules of Order. If you are here to provide evidence for COA on tonight's agenda, the chair will recognize you at the appropriate time before yielding the floor. Before you speak, or when you start speaking, if you will say your name and address for the record. Speakers should directly address the commission. I ask that all speakers signed up to provide testimony on COA number 2010 come to the front or be sworn in. This is done to ensure that only facts or evidence pertaining to this item are presented to the commission. Opinion or hearsay testimony may not be entered as evidence and will not be permitted by the chair so as not to violate the applicant's due process rights. Would you please swear in the individuals?
Chairworthy,
Yes.
I apologize. I got that Elaine seconded the minutes, but I didn't get who made the motion to approve.
It was,
William Copeland?
yes.
Thank you. And then I believe the applicant, Clyde Albright, is also here to speak on this item. Jeff, if we could promote him so that Debbie can swear the both of us in, please.
Hello, this is Clyde Albright and Ben Pierce.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. Do any commission members have any conflict of interest to disclose on COA 2010? No. All right. Has any of the commission had any ex parte communication about this case? No. Thank you. May I ask the staff to establish historic significance, please?
Yes, sir, Chairworthy. As the staff report originally written in August stated, the applicant is requesting the approval of a certificate of appropriateness located around the Confederate Monument at 1 Courthouse Square. The historical significance is that the statue is a contributing structure circa 1914. It is a stone monument to the Confederate war soldiers of Alamance County that was erected in 1914 by the Graham chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. The monument rests on 2 rectangular slabs of rusticated stone and a pair of pedestals with inscriptions praising the heroism and devotion of the county's Confederate troops. Above the pedestals, a pillar rises to a statue of the Confederate private at attention, and the application is to erect an ornamental fence at the base of the Confederate monument. I also have one additional addendum to add, that the City of Graham staff acknowledges the county's declaration of ownership of the Confederate monument. The City of Graham staff recommends approval of a fence if the design of the fence is deemed historically appropriate by the Historic Resource Commission. If the design that's presented is not historically appropriate, conditional approval should be given by the HRC for an alternative design which would be historically appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So I know that there's 2 people signed up to speak. If we could have one of their testimonies, please, if you will give your name, your address before you speak. Thank you.
This is Clyde Albright. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm the county attorney for Alamance County. My office is located at 124 West Elm Street in Graham, North Carolina.
Thank you.
27253. And we respectfully ask the board of the commission to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an iron fence around the Confederate monument. And in support of our request, the county would state that, as the planning director has already stated, that county owns the monument. The North Carolina General Statute 100-9, which is a 1905 state law, authorizes a county to erect a substantial iron fence around a Confederate monument. Now, this statute from 1905, historically, it predates our monument, but it does allow the county to erect a historically appropriate feature of our Confederate monument. As owners of the monument, we're required by North Carolina General Statute 100-2 and the Graham Development Ordinance to preserve and maintain the Confederate monument. We believe, and I'm speaking for my board, the Alamance County Commissioners, believes that the construction of an iron fence is part of this ownership responsibility. And we've provided some examples of iron fences that are available to protect. As you can see in the picture there, they're used to protect buildings and electrical grids, power plants, data centers. And we feel like something similar to this would be appropriate for the monument. I envision it being something that you would see in Charleston or Savannah, one of those places where they have such structures as we're trying to protect.
Okay, so in the information, and I might have missed it, which is not unusual, but can you tell me the height of this fence that you're putting up?
We would respectfully suggest that that's something that you folks could tell us what you think would be appropriate. The ones that I have seen are 8 feet tall or 9 feet tall. I've been to Savannah and to Charleston, and those are the heights that we're talking about.
The other question I have is, since there is already obligous at at the bottom with the chain, which is basically a fence around um, the monument,
Yes.
how does that fence how does that fence affect that?
Well, I would think that a fence would replace that. It would not be necessary, or if the commission so stated, we'd put the fence inside that perimeter.
Okay. Sorry. Karen, do you have any questions? Matthew, do you have any questions? No? Okay. Stephen, do you have any questions? Okay. William, do you have questions?
Is this just going to be around the statue, or is it going to go all over around the courthouse?
It is going to go around the monument itself, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Elaine?
I have a couple questions, thank you. So it is up to us to determine whether the current fencing that remains with this new fencing? Is that what I understand?
Yes, I would think that it would not be necessary to have both, that the purpose of having the iron fence to protect the monument would render the current granite structure with the chain, it would render it no longer necessary.
I tend to
But-
agree.
Go ahead.
My second question is, are we married to the current design that you've submitted? Is this our option? Is this what you intend to install, in other words? Should we give permission for this?
That was a suggestion. If the commission would like to have an alternative design, then that is something we would look at. Yes, that is, we're not fixed in stone with that particular picture. That's just the pictures that a board member found and submitted to the
Well, it's from
board.
this has been Pierce. It's from the manufacturer. Those pictures are.
Right.
Okay. I would like to think we can do a little bit better for downtown Graham in terms of our historical significance and everything, but okay, and my last question, I think you indicated that ownership of the property on which the fence will be installed, that is in fact county. And so, or is it city? I mean,
It's county.
we are able to make this decision, correct, without,
Well, no,
Problem.
Chairworthy, if I can address that one.
Yes, please.
The issue is moot based on a couple of different pieces that I don't want to spend time going into here, but it does involve the statute that Mr. Albright mentioned, along with a couple other things where the state supersedes any other entities, and the state appears to have made a specific ruling about Confederate monuments that would give the county permission regardless of whether the state of North Carolina or Alamance County owns the monument. What we're saying here is that it's clear that the city of Graham doesn't, and therefore the county does have permission to do as they're requesting.
okay. And our function here is to determine a design, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so I do have a few comments. One is that I believe that, I don't know when the obelisks fencing was put up, but but it has been there long enough that I assume, or I would say that it is part of the design of the monument. So I would say that I would not, I would want to see that stays. Secondly, the design that you have given us is more of a stay away design. It has the curvature out to the public. If we're going to have a fence around a historic marker in downtown Graham, it needs to be a little more not a fence like around a prison. It needs to be more historic in nature, which does not have the curvature around the top. And so those are my comments and my view on this fence that, and then also I would say that the length between the railings, because it is a historic monument, we are trying to see the historic monument. It is there for tourists to see and to be able to read, that it needs to be, they need to be further apart so that people can see and read and actually see the monument and not have it closed off to where we cannot see the monument, and there's no reason to have the monument if you can't see it. It has to, the fencing has to allow the monument, which is the historic part that we are looking at here as the Historic Commission. It has to be able to be seen, and it has to be able to be there for that historic significance. That's my comments.
I got a comment. I got a question. Mr. Albright, do you know how tall the statue is?
I think the total height of the statue might approach 20 feet.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, Karen.
One of the examples that was in the material showed a decorative fence that had a 3-point, almost like a fleur-de-lis
Right.
on the top of that.
Okay.
I understand what Carrie is saying, to keep it so that it looks nice and you can see through it. Would that be a better choice, to have that decorative example used rather than a straight up or the curved forward?
Right.
Might that be a better solution and be something that would be akin to accomplishing what you were mentioning?
The whole purpose
your
of the
concern?
fence is a deterrent.
Yeah, but the fence,
And we get, it ain't worth it. No need of putting a fence up if people can get through it.
well, this was just.
Or
the
get over
design.
it.
This was just design on the top.
Yeah,
I understand, yeah.
But
I-
it's got to be designed as a deterrent from people trying to get to the statue.
Well, the top of the design of the fence would
So-
certainly not be a deterrent.
Is there any other questions? I'm sorry, for Mr. Albright. So Mr. Albright, you're saying that you think that it should be about 8 to 10 feet, and
Yes.
that these are just guidelines for the Historic Commission on what you think the fence should look like?
That is correct. And I would agree with the commission that a fleur-de-lis or some type of decorative finial would be more in keeping with a historic fence. I would agree with that. It would be more historically appropriate to have something like that.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Chairman,
you.
may I ask a question? here?
Yes, you may.
Are we able to table this until Mr. Albright or the company can bring us some samples of designs?
That is up to you.
Well, what do you think?
Chairworthy,
Yes?
this one is, because it's been delayed so many times.
We can't do
it'd be
that.
Appropriate for the commission to take action upon it now. I do have up a rendering of some of the wrought iron work that Chuck did behind the Knicks building, if the council would like to, if the commission would like to see that.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that come up on the screen?
Yes, it did. Thank you. That's better because you can see through it.
but I don't think it meets the height requirement.
Well, no,
Our
but it's,
issue-
it has a railing, so you wouldn't want the railing on
You
top.
say our issue is not the height, but what you can see through?
Well, both, I would say. But that's just my view on this.
Mhm.
Nathan,
Yes, sir.
what is the distance you think between the,
Somewhere around 8 inches.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think it has to be 4 inches in order to meet the code for a stair. So those may be vertical metal bars with no less than 4 inches between, excuse me, no more than 4 inches between them.
okay, thank you.
So if we went with 9 feet, 4 inches.
So does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Albright? Is there, the other gentleman, did he have any information that he needed to bring before us?
No,
All right, thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, one question. May I ask when you would start work on this and when you would anticipate completing this project? Is there a timeline on this?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes. Well, we would like to get the project started as soon as possible before the spring.
but the fence would have to be custom ordered and custom made. This has been pierced, so there will be some delay. It's not going in next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Okay,
Chairworthy, I'm sorry, we can't hear anything that he's
okay.
saying.
Yeah, you have to talk into your mic. Oh, you didn't have a mic, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we're just looking at the
Does, it-
the design, and that's the only factors we're taking in, not the purpose of this or anything like that.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's all they have given us tonight is the design. And yes, do you have a question, Stephen, for Mr. Albright? Okay,
So, Mr. Albright, if we were to keep the obelisk and chain, the preference would, well, does the county have a preference as to whether or not the fence is on the inside or the outside of it? Are you giving us, or is that for us to decide?
It would, I believe the fence would need to go inside the curb area, whether it's inside the obelisks, which are inside the curb.
Okay.
Is I think, and one of the issues, whether the chain comes out and the posts go in, but it would stay in what is the flower bed area. It wouldn't go into anything that is presently pavement.
Okay.
all right, thank you. Do you have anything else, Mr. Albright, that you think we need to know before?
Well, just one thing, I appreciate you taking the time to consider this. And I also want to add that there will be a small gate at the courthouse side of this fence to allow the landscaping folks to continue to keep up the landscaping. They do a great job. And that's the only thing I want to add to it. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So that, I'm going to close the public hearing. We will continue. Does anybody have any discussion? So I will tell you my opinion. I would like to see the obelisk stay because I think they've been there long enough that they're part of the piece. Yes. So obviously the fence would have to go inside the obelisk because there's no way to do it on the outside. I would like to not see the fence be any more than 8 feet. Because the higher it is, the more it blocks the view of the piece itself. And then I think I would like to see no less than 4 inches between the stanchions, or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, 4 inches in between. And then I would like to see that they go straight up, and then there's a, like you said, fleur-de-lis or something that's on the top of them, but that they do not curve out, that they go straight up. Those are my suggestions, and you all can chime in.
I agree with that. Yeah, yes. The fence needs to be on the inside, and if there can be a little bit of a decoration on it, that would be,
Right.
it needs to be artful, but it also needs to be, as Mr. Copeland said, it needs to be an indication to people that there is a fence here, and that means
Right.
that you stop. But we also need to be able to see through it and see what's been engraved on the wood, on the marble.
Right.
I've seen original pictures of the statue back in the 30s, and the gate chains wasn't there, and the post wasn't there.
Oh, really?
That's all been added since the statue was put up.
Right. I figured that was, but it's been there long enough to make it feel like it's part of the piece.
I make a motion that we go do the 9, 4 inches apart, 8, 4 inches apart. Is that your suggestion?
Well,
You ain't through with discussion yet?
I was wanting to make sure everybody had stuff for discussion before we made a motion. Is that all right?
I'm sorry for jumping.
No,
in.
no. Does anybody, so Matthew, do you have anything that you would, and you'll have to, if you talk, you have to have a mic, I'm sorry. But okay. Matthew said he had no questions. Stephen, do you have anything? Suggestions, comments, what you would like to see?
So it's a procedural question moving towards a motion,
Okay,
which
Uh,
we know we have to do tonight
that's correct.
based on
Right. What was
the
given
age of
us.
the COA.
Right.
So I'm gonna try and carefully. If a motion is made tonight to grant the COA with the recommendations of the 8-foot height,
Right,
4-foot or 4-inch span, fleur-de-lis or some type of decorative finial on the cap post.
yes.
Is the certificate we're issuing tonight conditional upon those being a rendering being submitted to us before work is done?
Okay, so my understanding, but we'll let Nathan chime in on that, but my understanding from Nathan is that we can't ask them to come back, that we have to move forward on whatever we do, so that we won't be able to have them come back and see a rendering, is what I'm saying. But Nathan, can you chime in on that, please, for us?
Carrie, I think that's a reasonable interpretation. If the commission wanted to say something like, it would look substantially similar to that at the Knicks building, or like we just approved at 127 West or something like that, I think that that would be what would be a conditional approval. At this point, I think that the HRC takes their action upon it, and then staff just says, yes, this was what HRC asked for, or no, it wasn't.
Okay. Thank you.
We're just making recommendations is what we're making. They
That's
asked for
correct.
recommendations.
That's correct.
They asked for recommendations. That's what we're doing, making recommendations.
That's correct.
That was your recommendation. Okay.
Karen, do you have anything? Elaine?
Well, it clearly probably carries no weight. I do not like the notion of keeping the obelisks in place
Okay.
in addition to a fence.
Okay.
But that's, I think it's crowded. I think it gets busy, and I think it obstructs the view of the monument, but that's what I think.
I see what you're saying, but I just have a hard time because it's been there so long, I feel like it's a piece of it, and we're supposed to try to preserve the piece and
Yes, but
piece of it, and so that's why I felt that way. But I agree, it's going to be a lot going on there.
It's going to be a design that I think will detract from the monument. And if our goal is to make it look as good as it can and to keep the monument visual and visually attractive, I would say less is more in this case.
Okay.
And while it also, according to Mr. Copeland, does not appear to be original to the
Right.
monument, so I
Yeah.
don't know that we're under any obligation to keep it.
But could the fence be white?
Yike.
That wouldn't take away from it so much. I'm thinking a black fence would take away from the statue.
I
But
think a black
maybe a
fence would be
white
great, but
fence
without all
wouldn't.
the other business in there, I think.
Okay.
Chairworthy,
Yes.
it might be helpful. I'm not sure what the design of those, the monument, the granite obelisks are or not. But it might be helpful to defer to the City of Graham staff for that, or maybe even Alamance County staff. It could be that those were put in place after a vehicle may have wandered into that area, which wouldn't be prohibited by the steel fence, but could be prohibited by those granite bollards if they were designed in such a way. And so it might be that the HRC would make a motion to approve it with the preference that something occur one way or the other, but deferring to maybe the City of Graham Public Works in consultation with the Alamance County Sheriff's Department, something like that.
Does that not somewhat diminish our capacity as an HRC?
Okay. I
I am just
that's
asking.
why we discussed this, and I see what you, I mean, I agree that it's a lot going on, so maybe you're right. They need to come off. I think, though, I would like, well, anyway, that's not what we're supposed to do, so, yes.
I have seen wrought iron fence posts where the cap actually looks like
Those,
an obelisk, yeah.
yeah,
And
okay,
it's a normal design feature. It's not something that is
right.
going to be an extreme cost factor. If I know we're not even worried about that, but the point being that I think you can incorporate right that design feature, which I do believe complements
Okay,
the main obelisk, and I would second what Nathan is informing us with regard to the traffic safety aspect
right.
of the design. So I think we need to.
Yeah, I think they're going to
we
have
need give
problems.
Flexibility
Right.
to the city, the county, and the law enforcement agencies
Okay.
in that aspect. But I think in terms of the overall design and aesthetic that we're trying to present, I think we can capture it with another alternative
Okay.
that we're talking about. Sorry.
Sounds good. That's why we discussed this. Anyone else have anything about that? So we've gone around and around. I know you started a motion, but could I get,
I'll make a motion.
okay, please.
I make a motion that we approve COA 2010 from the County of Alamance regarding the Confederate Monument with an 8-foot metal fence with no narrower than 4-inch spacing, and that the posts caps try to resemble as close as possible the points of the obelisk and some other type of decorative finial for the main span of the fence. And that the City of Graham staff, County of Alamance staff, and the related law enforcement agencies work together with any design features that may be affected with regard to traffic safety and such.
So what you're doing, you're deferring this to the sheriff department?
No, they,
You hear the vote, yes or no, not defer it to highway patrol or the sheriff department. And that's what I hear you saying. I want to just clarify that before I vote. That's all. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to clarify
Yeah.
what you're saying.
okay. So finish your motion and then we'll discuss it. Is that your finished? Are you
I'm
finished?
finished.
Okay, great. So that's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second his motion.
Okay, so then any discussion on the motion, and that would be that
Chair Whitty?
yes,
The motion, as I heard it, was an 8-foot fence. Was that meant to be not more than 8 feet?
not more than 8 feet.
Do you want me to repeat the whole motion or are you good?
Yes, please, if you will do that, please.
Oh, Nathan, real quick.
Yes, sir.
The condition that it was completely vertically oriented and not forward. There were no elements that were protruding towards the general public.
So that would have to be a change in the motion. If you want to make an
I'll
amendment,
amend my motion.
thank you. Please.
Sorry.
So,
Did you want me to repeat that?
yes, please.
The motion was to approve COA 2010 for a fence for the Alamance County Confederate Monument of not more than 8 feet, not less than 4-inch spacing. The post cap should resemble points of the obelisk and other filials for the main span. However, they need to be vertical, not bent one way or the other, in or out. And staff will work together with any design features for traffic safety.
Okay, and
Excuse me.
do you second the?
I'll second his motion.
Okay, thank you. And it was second. Okay,
I'm sorry, may I ask a question? Nathan, is there anything in there that specifically says we have to talk about removing the obelisks and the chain?
no.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want that in there? we can discuss a little bit, the motion. Do we want that in there? That they remove those, or
Yes.
is that what you wanted in your motion? Or do you
The
want to leave it?
reason why I left it the way that I did
Uh-huh,
was so that the city, county,
okay,
and law enforcement, if that
Well-
is an element of
okay. Will that,
safety,
will
then
that work, Nathan, the way we said the motion about the things that are there already, the obelisks that are there already?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So if they're not needed, then
Right,
they can go.
okay.
And the
So-
staff know our wishes.
All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes. Thank you all very much.
Chairworthy, was that unanimous?
It was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will go to COA 2101. I ask that all speakers that would like to present tonight, if you'll raise your hand so that they will see you and that you will be sworn in for testimony on COA 2101. This is done to ensure any facts or evidence pertaining to this item are presented to the commission. Opinion or hearsay testimony may not be entered as evidence and will not be permitted by me as not to violate the applicant's due process rights. Would you please swear in?
Chairworthy, I think that myself and Chuck Talley are the only ones that are going to present on this one.
Great, thank you.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I can't hear nothing. Jennifer, I can't hear nothing.
Oh,
All right, Chuck, we can hear you.
I lost my sound. I don't know. Can y'all hear me? I can't-
yes, Chuck, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can't hear them.
Hold on one second, Chairworthy. I'm going to give him a ring.
Okay.
I have lost the sound.
Jeff, will you mute them just in case?
I can hear now.
Oh, you can hear us?
Yes?
I can hear you now.
Thank you. So please swear Chuck in, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Do any commission members have any conflicts of interest to disclose for COA 2101?
No.
Has anyone on the commission had any ex parte communication about this case?
No.
All right, thank you. Staff, will you give historic significance, please? And-
Yes, sir.
And the report, just both, please.
Yes, sir. We've grouped two different applications here together because they're for the same area, for the same purpose, with the same historical significance. And we do have a valid application from Mr. Talley and Mr. Crotts. I believe that Mr. Crotts has requested that Mr. Talley represent him here. But the applicant is requesting approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the following areas located behind 21 Southwest Court Square to demolish the structure and then install some additional parking. The historical significance is that this structure was a contributing 1905 two-story concrete building with stone facade and stepped side elevations. The east elevation facing the courthouse square contains a modern storefront and metal awnings. A rough stone facade similar to the fire station with smooth stone pilasters around narrow paired 1/1 sash windows was added to the second story of this structure and to the building next to it, which now read as one building. The structure, built by W.H. Holt and A.B. Nicholson, was the first concrete building in town.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking at two structures that they want to tear down. Does anyone have any questions of Chuck concerning this?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Are you talking about the old garage that was behind the Moser building?
Can y'all hear me?
yes,
Can y'all
we
hear me?
can.
Okay. This is the portion of building behind Graham Furniture that probably is the garage, and it backed up to McClure Street, which is kind of like in the middle of the block there. So this was like a shed built on the side of the other building, and then on the inside of the tin, and even what little brick you see in the lower picture that I'm looking at right now, that has poles that is holding everything up, and it's sagging, and they actually put tin against the ceiling on the inside because it's leaking so bad. So one of the reasons we're trying to remove this is to gain some off-street parking, but also because we need the wall that this is backing up to in order to put the new three-phase service in for the Moser building, which is setting on Court Square, the two-story part. So we're needing this to update the service, because currently, right now, the service is a 60 amp service, and it comes off a street light on Court Square at the street facade. We're trying to get all the power off the front of the building with the things that we're looking at doing with the engineer right now to the interior of the building. We really need to come back with a larger service that'll accommodate the needs of electricity that currently we have it today. Currently, there's no way I could run off that service anyway. Plus, we're cleaning up the front of the building by doing this. And meanwhile, it's creating some extra parking behind the building so he can load and unload. I own approximately 50% of the area, and he owns the other 50%.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Does anyone have any questions of Chuck? Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, please?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I have a question, and I'm looking at the guidelines according to our handbook. And I just have a question. Will you be doing any salvage of anything in that building that might be of historical value? And will there be any record of the original building? It's clear that it does have some historical significance. Do you have any plans to preserve anything, or is there anything worth preserving? I guess, I don't know. That's probably a subjective. Anyway, and is there any landscaping or trees that need to be protected? I'm not familiar with the complete site. So those are my questions. Preservation of anything of historical value, any record and photos that may be entered into a record for historical data, and any tree or landscape protection, if applicable.
There's currently no trees that are on the property. The property and what little parking he has behind the building occupies the entire area.
Okay.
Inside the building, this is like a pole shed, and even the floors aren't leveled. They would just pour it on the dirt, and they all slope from the front of the building or towards from Main Street back to the McClure Street. So on the inside, there's some like tin they've screwed to the ceilings, and we thought that we would try to, I always recycle everything. So we thought that we would save that we might use that, even though it's not that old, or at least it doesn't look old to me. We thought we might could use some of that, like for the dressing rooms at the two-story retail store that's coming in to the remaining part of the building. We thought, well, we can use that for dressing rooms and things like that. So that some of that stuff will be recycled on the inside of the portion of the building that we're saving.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Do you have any other things, Elaine? Karen, do you have any questions? Okay. Matthew, do you have any questions? Okay, Matthew says no. Stephen, do you have any questions? William, do you?
Nope.
Okay, no questions. All right. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Council.
And we will close. There was no other speakers, is that correct? It was just him. Okay, so we will close the public hearing. Was there any discussion from the commissioners before? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion
Okay.
that we accept the application as.
Okay, so
You read it? I'm looking for that, I can't find it.
You'll hold on one second. Let me find. You have it. Thank you. Okay. You have to include the CO.
Okay, I moved it from the evidence.
So you,
I moved it based upon the evidence presented to
okay,
application
you're
during
gonna
the
have to
public
talk
meeting.
into your mic so they can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I move that based upon the evidence presented to application during the public meeting, the commission finds that the proposed project is in with the character of local historical district has been met. You don't want me to vote for it.
Did you get that? Did you get that motion?
That
Okay.
works.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second for that motion? There's a second. Can you reread that motion for the commission, please?
Who is the second?
It was Elaine.
Thank you. I believe the motion was that there was a move to approve the application for COA 2101 for the property located at 21 Southwest Square as submitted because it meets the following criteria. The proposed change meets the historic resource guidelines F1.1.1, 1.1.2, 1.1. F1.3, F1.4. Therefore, the proposed changes are compatible with the character of the district.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It was unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So now if we could have an update from City Councilwoman Melody Wiggins, please.
Councilmember Wiggins wasn't able to make it tonight. She did say that many of you might already be aware, but the council is still reviewing the parade information, and that's why I haven't sent it out yet. There were a
Okay.
couple of items that were pointed out by, we'll say, a smattering of attorneys who had some input that is yet to be incorporated in those. It may be ready after the next city council member meeting. It might take another month or two. Typically, the legal language takes a little bit longer than some of the other portions that we work on.
Okay, thank you. Was there any additional items?
I just wanted to share one, how great the evening was. I think you guys did a great job. And then two, I did work with the State Historic Preservation Office today. That was one of the many meetings that I was in. And they, one, requested another meeting, but they also said that they're going to help us write the architectural inventory update to make absolutely certain that it will qualify us for CLG status.
Great. Thank you very much. So is there anything else, Nathan?
No, sir, that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Does any of the commissioners have anything? Then I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
There's a motion, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or adjourn. Thank you.